Welcome to Off the Record with me, Sanny Ntayombya. Every Friday, I bring a brand new perspective to the week's old headlines. So sit back, relax, and let's get that conversation going. But before we do, make sure you hit that follow button. And now, let's get into the very first headline.
It was reported that on the night of the 17th and 18th of this month, 22 people were arrested in a Kigali city night spot. For what reason, you ask? Because that night spot was actually an underground strip club. How do we know it was a strip club? Well, because someone took explicit videos and photos of the place and posted them on social media. Obviously, this has set tongues wagging online. Reacting to the news, the Minister of Youth and Arts, Abdallah Utumatwishima, tweeted his disappointment to his about 26,000 followers, writing, "The men and women who made those girls dance nude, is that the business they have chosen?" I could literally hear the pain in his voice as he concluded his tweet, asking, "Is that the Rwanda we want?" I've seen a lot of people arguing about this story. Some saying that law enforcement wasn't correct in arresting the 22, and others saying that this was against Rwandan culture, and yet others arguing that the dancers had done nothing wrong. Today, I'd like to unpack those arguments. First is about the legality of the arrests. First of all, dancing naked in a room isn't necessarily a crime. If you and a bunch of friends host a party in your house, close all the curtains and doors so that no one can see what is happening, and then decides to dance naked, it's not an issue. But, and there is a big but, if any of the images of the party are shared or leaked, then you'll fall foul on our public indecency laws. So, let's talk about what actually happened over the weekend and why law enforcement got involved. While strip clubs are not explicitly banned in Rwanda, our law on what constitutes indecency makes the act of dancing naked in a nightclub illegal. Why? Because nightclubs and bars are public spaces according to our laws. And because they are public spaces, the bar owner and the nude dancers all have fallen foul of Article 143 of our criminal law that states that any person who performs an indecent act in public commits an offense. And if found guilty, they will go to jail for a time period between 6 months to 2 years. Matters, though, might get even more serious in this case. If those girls were either coerced or lured into dancing in the bar, then everyone involved will likely face an even more serious charge, a charge of human trafficking. Now, if they are found of doing this, my goodness, they will go to jail for a term of between 5 to 10 years. And now, even more, if any of those girls were also engaged in prostitution, which is probably most likely, then that's another criminal case everyone will have to deal with. Now, I think we can all agree that strip club culture isn't one that we should be proud to be part of. It's weird. That's one. It's based off of our worst instincts. That's two. And thirdly, it's fundamentally exploitative. I'm yet to hear of a young boy or girl say that they dream of becoming sex workers when they grow up. I mean, they want to be lawyers, they want to be doctors, they want to be pilots. Sex workers, I've never heard that. Yes, life sometimes happens and hard choices have to be made. I get that. But let's also agree that those choices come from a place of vulnerability and not from a place of choice, if I may say. Now, the kind of national culture that is being created in Rwanda is the antithesis of strip club culture. You cannot, on one hand, embrace a national culture based off of agaciro or self-worth, and then think that strip club culture has a place in such a society. But let's not get it twisted. Agaciro doesn't pay the bills. So it's up to the government and the private sector to start thinking about creating good jobs for all these young people that need these jobs. These jobs that can then allow people to pay their bills and live their dreams. Until that happens, things like what happened over the weekend and what came to light over the weekend will continue to take place. But it will just be done further and further into the shadows. And trust me, that's something none of us should ever desire to happen. That will not end well for everyone. Now, local pop star The Ben has been the talk of the town over the last few days, and not for good reason. In footage that was taken in Musanze, he's seen taking photos with a female fan with his hand seemingly placed on her backside. That footage has raised quite a stink. Some people, including the young lady in question, are saying, it was harmless. Others, on the other hand, have not been so kind, calling him all sorts of names. Now, I don't really want to discuss the ins and outs of that particular incident, but what I do want to discuss is just how problematic we are as Rwandans when it comes to personal space and people's bodies. I found us as Rwandans to be way too comfortable touching people without consent. And while I've seen that happen to men, the overwhelming victims of this unwanted touching happen to be Rwandan women, and the perpetrators are overwhelmingly men. Now, because of that fact, I'm going to speak directly to my fellow men. Just know that if a lady decides to not ignore your hands on her and instead calls rib, you'll go to jail for assault. Assault. This is not a game, people. There are serious repercussions for these kinds of actions. So, Mr. The Ben, thank the Lord that the young lady chose not to seek justice. You were extremely lucky. But you might not be so lucky next time. So, here's my advice. Keep your hands to yourself. Or you'll most likely face the consequences of your actions, and this time, your celebrity will not save you. Lastly, after witnessing the swearing in of his new cabinet on Monday, President Kagame delivered a 35 or so minute address to the assembled national leaders, media, diplomats, and, country VIPs. Speaking about certain behaviors he had noticed in leadership circles, he gave, and I'm talking about negative behaviors, he gave an example of elevators in public buildings being held up so that high-ranking officials could use them and use them, freely and get on them by themselves because, they're VIPs, or so they believe. I won't say where I've personally witnessed this, but the president is spot on. This happens. But this isn't the most egregious example of high-end and this isn't the most egregious example of high and mighty behavior he's noted. He's previously complained about leaders making their staff hold their bags and book their seats on shared buses. I have no issue with a private business person asking their assistant to carry their bag. That's their prerogative. But I can't fathom a public servant acting as if they are better than the public they serve, or worse yet, the public they come from. As someone who has lived in Rwanda for the last 30 years, I've seen the evolution of the relationship between the leadership and the led. It's been slowly moving away from what I call the Nyakuawa Muturaje or VIP commoner kind of relationship to something more relaxed and less full of protocol and self-importance. However, it's not been an easy journey. A well-known case involved a minister who was sacked after assaulting a security guard in a downtown high-rise. What caused the assault? Well, the former minister's refusal to go through a metal detector. The official, whose name I will not say, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people know this case. Well, the official lost his job. Think about this, simply because he couldn't fathom walking through a security device like a normal muturage. To be treated like a common citizen was, in his estimation, beyond the pale. The question is, what is wrong about being treated like a common muturage? Is being a normal citizen something to be ashamed of? Is it something to be sneered at? A leadership position is just that, a position. You can have it one day, and the next day it's gone. What, though, cannot be taken away from you is your right as a citizen. Now, if you've created a system where only leaders have rights and citizens have none, then staying in leadership becomes a fight to the death. Thankfully, that isn't the system that Rwanda is trying to create. Rwanda is attempting to build a fair society where all its citizens, leaders and commoners alike, relate to each other with humility and respect. The thing is, the Abaturage already treat their leaders extremely well. So it's up to the leaders to park their egos aside and navigate society with a bit of humility and respect. So, dear minister, afande, mayor, DG, CEO, enter that cramped elevator. It's not the end of the world. You'll still remain the powerful person you think you are. And that is a wrap for this week's episode. Thank you so much for making it to the very end. Remember to follow us on our social media and to make sure to check out our other podcast, The Long Form with Sanny Ntayombya. It comes out every Monday like clockwork. Hope to have you back next Friday. Have a great weekend.